Hi, my name is Ray and welcome to Quiz Class. I'll be your host for this 1960s quiz. Let's begin. In 1960, after a successful run of 13 years, which children's show was canceled by NBC? Was it Mickey Mouse Club, Howdy Doody, or Captain Kangaroo? The correct answer is Howdy Doody. Betty Friedan's book, The Feminine Mystique, published in 1963, challenged the notion that a woman's identity is solely tied to which of the following: her career achievements, educational level, or child rearing and her husband's accomplishments. It's child rearing and her husband's accomplishments. On which American television show did the Beatles make their highly anticipated U.S. debut in 1964? American Bandstand, The Tonight Show, or The Ed Sullivan Show? The correct answer is The Ed Sullivan Show. In 1967, a tragic accident occurred in an Apollo program, costing 3 astronauts their lives. Was it Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins, John Glenn Shepard and Scott Carpenter, or Virgil Grimson, Edward White, and Roger Schaeff? It was Virgil Grimson, Edward White, and Roger Schaeff. In 1969, which legendary Western actor won the Academy Award for Best Actor for his role in the film True Grit? Clint Eastwood, John Wayne, or Gary Cooper? The correct answer is John Wayne. What was the decade of the 1960s also known as in terms of culture? Was it the contraculture, the counterculture, or the cancel culture? It was the counterculture decade. How did America show its involvement with the Vietnam War in 1961? They sent advisory forces to aid Vietnam. They sent troops to invade Vietnam, or they aided Vietnam with $700 million emergency funds. They sent advisory forces to aid Vietnam. What was the cause of the greatest and longest protest in Japanese history, the Anpo protests? Was it U.S.-Japan Security Treaty, the Japan Association of Refugees, or the Hiroshima Summit? It was the U.S.-Japan Security Treaty. What event marked the start of Suharto's 31-year presidency? Was it Indonesia's Independence Day becoming a public holiday, Suharto's restructured parliament, or the Indonesian mass killings of 1965 to 66? It was the Indonesian mass killings of 1965 to 1966. What is the term used to refer to the period of widespread social-political friction that occurred in China from 1966? Cultural Revolution, Communist Revolution, or Republican Revolution? It is referred to as the Cultural Revolution. What was the first for presidential elections in the U.S. during the Kennedy-Nixon debates? It was the first debate where parties got violent. It was the first debate aired on television, or was the first debate to stretch over 4 days? It was the first debate aired on television. What much anticipated ongoing event took place before the adoption of the flag of Canada in 1965? The Valentine's voting, the Great Canadian Flag Debate, or the National Unity Conference? It was the Great Canadian Flag Debate. Whose famous image became a popular symbol for rebellion for the New Left during the late 1960s? Was that Fidel Castro, Che Guevara, or Salvador Allende? It was Ernesto Che Guevara. What speech did British Prime Minister Harold Macmillan deliver in 1960? I Have a Dream, Revolution is in the Air, or Wind of Change? It was Wind of Change. What was the name of the group of writers and painters that initiated a literary and cultural movement in India during the 60s? The Hungryalists, Angry Artists Association, or Panta Painters? It was the Hungryalists. Who took power of the Libyan monarchy September 1969, establishing a revolutionary government? Was it Muammar al-Gaddafi, King Idris, or General Haftar? It was Colonel Muammar al-Gaddafi. Which earthquake is considered the most powerful ever recorded, causing devastating tsunamis in Chile, Hilo, and Hawaii? The Tohoku earthquake, the Indian Ocean earthquake, or the Valdivia earthquake? It was the Valdivia earthquake. Which band is often considered the most popular band in global history and experienced fan worship during the 60s? The Rolling Stones, the Beatles, or Led Zeppelin? It's the Beatles. On March 11th, 1961, which iconic doll made its debut? Barbie, Ken, or Skipper? If you answered Ken, you are correct. What was the minimum wage in the United States in 1961 to 1963? Was it 70 cents, $1, or $2? If you answered $1, you are correct. Where was punk rock born in the 1960s? A cinema matinee in Peru, a musical theater in the US, or a pub in Ireland? It was born in a cinema matinee in Peru. Which future US president was born in 1961? Was that Barack Obama, Donald Trump, or George W. Bush? It was President Barack Obama. Where was Diana Spencer, Princess of Wales, born on the 1st of July in 1961? Was it Sandringham, UK, London, UK, or Cardiff, Wales? It was Sandringham in the United Kingdom. In 1965, which hurricane caused severe damage to the U.S. Gulf Coast, particularly in Louisiana? Hurricane Harvey, Hurricane Katrina, or Hurricane Betsy? It was Hurricane Betsy. During the superhero boom of the 60s, which TV series was not popular? Hogan's Heroes, Batman, or The Green Hornet? It was Hogan's Heroes. How many Olympic Games were held in the 60s during the Cold War? None, to show respect. 1 or 3? The correct answer is 3. The 1960s were known as the height of what age? Was it the industrial age, the space age, or the anti-culture age? It's the space age. Which hairstyle was not a popular men's mainstream hairstyle during the 60s? Was it the pompadour, the flat top, or the mullet? If you answered the mullet hairstyle, you are correct. Up until the late 1960s, which group of visitors were not allowed to enter Disneyland? Was it people with tattoos, long-haired males, or non-English speakers? The correct answer is long-haired males. Out of the 132 people who boarded Air France Flight 007 in 1962, how many survived the crash on takeoff from Paris? Was it 2, 13, or 130? There were only 2 survivors. The first industrial robot was introduced in 1961. What was its name? Jabotler, Jartorque, or Unimate? It was Unimate. What type of telephones were introduced in 1963? Rotary dial phones, push-button phones, or touch-tone phones? It's touch-tone telephones. Which of the following hairstyles gained popularity towards the later half of the 1960s? The bird's nest, the chignon, or very short styles? It was very short hairstyles. Which of the following projects was a CIA initiative during the 60s? Operation Acoustic Kitty, Operation Covert Fury, or Operation Spy Fly? It was Operation Acoustic Kitty. Which of the following cartoons gained popularity during the 60s? SpongeBob SquarePants, Johnny Quest, or the Powerpuff Girls? If you answered Johnny Quest, you are correct. What was such an unusual activity that police would sometimes stop and question people doing it during the 60s? Was it forming big crowds in public places, running for exercise, or dancing in public? It was running for exercise. How much would you pay for a gallon of leaded gas in the US in the 60s? Would that be 10 cents, 31 cents, or $1.18? The correct answer is 31 cents. What was a popular aesthetic for hippie movements and the counterculture during the 60s? Smileys and peace signs, pastel florals and smileys, or peace symbols and flowers? It was peace symbols and flowers. What was the average life expectancy for men in the US during the 60s? Was that 66 years, 73 years, or 82 years? It was 66 years. What would you spend on tuition at Harvard in the 60s? $750, $1,520, or $3,290? It would cost $1,520. What were Afro hairstyles very popular in the 60s characterized by? Naturally voluminous curls, long curly hair teased into shape, or permed hair tweezed into a ball shape? Naturally voluminous curls. What was the first touch interactive computer graphics program created in 1963? Was it the Notepad, the calculator, or Sketchpad? It was the Sketchpad. What popular console would Ralph Baer's brown box created in 1968 later become? The Magnavox Odyssey, Nintendo Entertainment System, or Sony PlayStation? If you answer Magnavox Odyssey, you are correct. Which of the following TV shows gained popularity in the 60s? Was that Doctor Who, Friends, or The Simpsons? If you answered Doctor Who, you are correct. Who was often considered the greatest songwriter of all time and played a significant role in defining the musical ideas of the 60s? Was that Bob Dylan, Michael Jackson, or Elvis Presley? It was Bob Dylan. In 1960, the first star appeared on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Whose was it? Marilyn Monroe, Audrey Hepburn, or Joanne Woodward? It was Joanne Woodward. What significant event marked the end of the I Love Lucy franchise in the 60s? Lucille Ball's Broadway debut, the divorce of Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz, or Desi Arnaz's retirement? It was the divorce of Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz. Which country had the strongest economy by gross domestic product in the 60s? Was that the United Kingdom, the United States, or the Soviet Union? It was the United States. What was the 60s also known as in terms of world leaders? The decade of assassinations, the decade of revolutions, or the decade of equality challenges? It was known as the decade of assassinations. What was the recorded divorce rate in 1960? Was that 12%, 22%, or 32%? It was 22%. What color was the most popular in the 60s? Let us know the answer in the comments. Thanks for playing this quiz. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button.